So in the aftermath of Trump announcing that he wants to relocate the Gazans and have them live more peaceful lives and have Jordan and Egypt take them in, and for America to own and invest in Gaza, aiming to respond to this plan to stymie Trump's Riviera vision, Arab leaders have come together to endorse their plan. And I want to tell you a bit about what their plan is, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves, because already Israel and the White House have rejected this Arab-Egyptian plan. The proposal is to have a $53 billion Gaza plan that would that would see Gazans remaining in the Strip during reconstruction. But they avoid all kind of difficult questions about Hamas. What's going to happen there? And I want to tell you a bit about what their plan says, and then just explain how absurd it is, how ridiculous it is. So they've said that Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said the proposal, which was welcomed by Hamas, by the way, which tells you all you need to know, but rejected by America and Israel. It had been accepted at the closing summit he hosted in Cairo, and he said it would be able to achieve peace. These people are, I would say, delusional, but I think they know exactly what they're doing. They want to see the conflict continue to foster in order to undermine Israel. The proposal didn't address major questions that need to be answered about Gaza's future regarding the role of Hamas. Which countries will provide the billions of dollars needed for reconstruction? That was also left unclear. He said that the Palestinians would remain in the war-torn territory, and that independent Palestinian technocrats unaffiliated with Hamas would run the Strip after the end of the war. The committee would be responsible for the oversight of humanitarian aid and managing the Strip's affairs for a temporary period in preparation for the return of the Palestinian Authority. In a statement, Hamas said it welcomed the plan, as well as the formation of the Palestinian Committee. There were divisions among participants over the future of Hamas, which sparked the war with the October 7th onslaught. The UAE, which sees Hamas and other Islamists as an existential threat, wants an immediate and complete disarmament of the terror group, while other Arab countries advocate a gradual approach, a source close to the matter told Reuters. A source close to Saudi Arabia's royal court said the continued armed presence of Hamas in Gaza was a stumbling block because of strong objections from the United States and Israel, which would need to sign off on any plan. The White House later came out against the Arab plan, with the National Security Council spokesperson Brian Hughes saying in a statement to the Times of Israel, "It does not address the reality that Gaza is currently uninhabitable and residents cannot humanely live in a territory covered in debris and unexploded ordnances. President Trump stands by his vision to rebuild Gaza free from Hamas. We look forward to further talks to bring peace and prosperity to the region," appearing to leave the door open for further talks with our Arab allies. Israel's foreign ministry said the Egyptian plan fails to address the realities of the situation. It's noteworthy that Hamas' vicious terror assault isn't mentioned. There isn't even a condemnation of this murderous terrorist entity, despite the documented atrocities, they said. And they reiterated Israel's support for Trump's plan to resettle Gaza's population elsewhere, describing it as an opportunity for the Gazans to have free choice based on their free will. A day after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu again gave his full-throated backing to the proposal, calling it visionary and innovative. By the way, I don't know about you. If I was a Gazan and I was just, unwittingly going about my life, wasn't tied to Hamas, and wasn't deeply ideological in my Jew hatred, I would want to be moved and live in a beautiful open area in some, undeveloped area in the Arab world that will get loads and loads of funding. And I can have a far higher guarantee there's going to be peace. I won't be living under modern-day Nazi-esque dictatorship of Hamas that would guarantee war and destruction every few years. Israel's foreign ministry statement also urged responsible regional states to break free from past constraints and collaborate to create a future of stability and security in the region. Egypt's foreign minister blasted Israel's rejection as unacceptable, describing it as stubborn and extremist. No, they're the extremists. Quote, there will be no peace neither to Israel or the region without establishing an independent Palestinian state in accordance with the United Nations resolutions, he said. Israel violates all international law rules. The international law must be imposed. And they don't even have the ability to call out what Hamas did on October 7th, and yet in their statement, and yet it's Israel that's the terrible one. Also, Israel violates all international law rules. Wow, that's quite an achievement. All international law rules. Wow. Palestinians, along with the Arab world and many allies of Israel and the US, have condemned Trump's proposal, rejecting any efforts to expel Gazans. At Tuesday's meeting, Sisi also reissued a call for a two-state solution. There will be no true peace without the establishment of a Palestinian state. It's time to adopt the launching of a serious and effective political path that leads to a permanent and lasting solution to the Palestinian cause. The only problem is we've been trying that for 100 years, and they've said no every time, and it's only led to war and bloodshed, because the Palestinian cause is not based on real desire for self-determination, it's based on Jew hatred. So it's irresolvable if you want to keep indulging in this absurdity of a two-state solution, which Trump has the sanity to recognize is simply a dead end. The Egyptian plan, called Early Recovery, Reconstruction, Development of Gaza, is based on preserving the rights, dignity and humanity of the Palestinian people. It says it's illogical to ignore Palestinians' desire to remain on their land. It calls for the continuation of the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, the release of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners. It envisions a Gaza administration committee made up of independent technocrats to manage an initial 6-month transitional phase, urges elections in all Palestinian areas within a year if conditions support such a move. Brilliant! Let's have elections. And we know, according to polling, that the majority of the Arabs in Gaza and Judea and Samaria, according to polling, according to what soldiers tell us and is in the society when they go in there, door to door, house to house, I'm talking about Israeli soldiers, what the hostages tell us, there's widespread support for Hamas. There's not one example of an Arab that tried to help or save a hostage. We had 30,000 examples of righteous among the nations in Europe during the Holocaust. Not one example in Gaza, as far as we know. Maybe Israel have kept this quiet to protect their identity. But as far as we know, there haven't been that many rescue successes. Not that many. So there's clearly widespread support for Hamas. I mean, can you name me one well-recognized Palestinian leader that's actually a genuine hope for peace in the whole 100-year conflict? I can't. So it's really ridiculous. You know, they've used, as you can see here, all these colourful AI images envisioning a series of modern living spaces, agricultural zones, commercial centres, an airport, a seaport. And it doesn't directly name Hamas in the document. Instead refers to multiple armed Palestinian factions, an issue that remains challenging. So let's be absolutely clear. Let's be clear. This is utterly ridiculous. You should know, by the way, that Guterres, the UN Secretary General, says, I welcome and strongly endorse the Arab-led initiative. That should be enough to tell you that this is a waste of time. If he's endorsing this, you know it's a waste of time. It's frankly completely absurd. It is absurd. We know certain things. Number one, Palestinian cause is based on Jew hatred. That's its fundamental premise. We know that there's widespread support for that among the Arabs in Gaza and Judea and Samaria. So we know those two things. We know that Hamas were elected in 2005. And we know that even if they don't get elected this time, it's highly likely that that's the kind of government that's going to exist and be in place if Israel, God forbid, handed over the reins again. So we know all that. So we know, therefore, that what will inevitably happen next is there'll be more war, more bloodshed, more destruction, and all this investment will go to waste, and there's going to be more suffering on both sides. So the only way you can look at this is to think that this is about trying to prolong the conflict. Now, they will say, no, we can't evict these people from their homes. Well, the funny thing is they used to tell us the Arabs in Gaza, that they see their homes in mainland Israel, that that's where they belong, really. And now suddenly, though, Gaza's what really matters to them. I thought it was mainland Israel that they wanted. That's where they come from, they say. Israel has indulged now for, as I say, nearly 100 years, this notion that they just want to live in this land because they consider themselves a unique people. And this notion has been proven to be false. Had the Arabs won in 1948, God forbid, and destroyed the nascent state of Israel, there wouldn't be a Palestinian state. Jordan would have a chunk of the land, Egypt would have a chunk of the land, Lebanon. The same in 1967 or 73, when there was an Arab coalition to destroy the Jewish state. The simple fact is that what this is about, and what the Palestinian cause has always been about, has not been about having a state of their own, because if it was, this would have been solved 100 years ago. They say, yeah, well, but we want all of it. We want all of it. I'm sorry, but the Jewish people, at the very least, you would have to acknowledge, have an equally strong claim to the land. I would argue far, far stronger. But at the very least, they would have to acknowledge they have a very strong claim to the land. And they say, yeah, well, we were kicked out. And no, you weren't kicked out. Jews moved there through legal means, purchased land legally, came back to their indigenous homeland, which they had prayed for to return to for 2,000 years, having been displaced from it forcefully. And the displacement that you lament happened because when the UN said, okay, there's Jews and Arabs living here legally, we are going to decide to have split the land in two, to have an Arab state and a Jewish state. The Jews said yes, the Arabs said no. They went to war against the Jews, and the Jews fought back. And in that war, many were displaced. Many actually were displaced because Arab leaders and countries told them, run away. And then once we throw the Jews into the sea, you can come back. But of course, it didn't work out for them. And now it's our fault. No, it's about Arab expansionism. It's about a humiliation of the Jewish people returning to their God-given homeland because of the threat that has to an Islamist expansionist worldview. But we're not going anywhere. And if ultimately, as the premise, I think, of what I'm saying seems to have been proven, they just consider themselves Arabs and part of the Arab world and wanting Arab expansionism, then I don't see why it's such a bad idea to say, you know what, for as long as you're in the Jewish land, the ancient Jewish homeland, you're going to continue to feel provoked into trying to destroy us, into being the front of the fight of the anti-Israel coalition. So maybe relocation to your indigenous lands, to Arab lands, maybe that could be a way to resolve this. I don't think Israel says any of this with great, excitement or glee. But tell me, what other option is there than what the president is suggesting? The two-state solution is clearly a waste of time. More than that, it's an existential threat to Israel. The Palestinian cause has proven itself to be illegitimate, based on lies and hatred. So I think they've blown it. They've blown their chances at this. And all this kind of stuff, this meeting here among Arab partners is really desperation on their part. And I think it's pretty clear that Israel and America are not going to stand for it.
Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me. But most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.